All right, let's be honest. We like talking about the Panthers on this channel, but there hasn't been a lot to talk about with the Carolina Panthers. It's been a rough year. They're 1-10. They've been outscored by 119 points. We know all this, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of that is the reason that Frank Reich was let go. I didn't think this was a bad hire. I thought he was a good coach when he was in Philly. I thought he was kind of finding a bad spot in Indy, and it was just the rotating quarterbacks and guys that were kind of on their last leg. And well, that's not true. It turns out that that wasn't necessarily true. Maybe he just isn't in the spot. Maybe he's just not the guy. So he now becomes the head coach to be fired the soonest into his head coaching tenure since 1978, I believe, which is just nuts to me. So let's dig into this a little bit. Let's talk about why he was fired. Let's talk about who else was fired. Let's talk about who's going to replace him as the head coach. And let's talk about why this is a move that seemingly needed to happen right now. If you're new to the channel, hey, we love doing content. We're Lions fans. As you can see, you got the Lion behind me. We have another channel, Sports Talk Detroit, but we love talking about teams that the national media ignores, and the Panthers seems to be one of them. And so let's talk about it. The reasons Panthers owners Dave Tepper ultimately fired Frank Reich. This is a really interesting article that you can find on SI, and I thought it was a really good one. And the first quote that you see on this is, "Don't let one mistake become two." All right. This is how he would run a hedge fund. And as you know about Tepper, he's a money guy. That's what he does. So when talking, there's a couple of good questions you have to ask yourself. Since Tepper has took over the team in 2018, he has fired not one, not two, but three coaches in the middle of the season. Now, Frank Reich did an interview and said nothing but good things. He said nothing but good things about him, which is great. But interim coaches have coached 22% of the games for him. All right? Here's a quote that you can see. His thing is, all right, this is very, very interesting. His thing is, the minute it gets bad, it's going to get worse. So we better try something else, says a former Panthers staffer. I don't know why I said staffer. See, there's the Lions fan coming out in me. He said he's a hedge fund guy. That's what hedge fund guys do. The second something stops earning money, they take their money out of it, take the profit, and move on to something else. In other words, this is how he knows how to do business. This is it. All right. Another Panthers coach said he doesn't care about the money. He looks at it like a stock. You make a poor investment, there's a sunk cost. Boom, you move on. All right. That works in the stock world. Does that work in the NFL? So the question is, was this the right move? But they didn't just move on from Frank. They moved on from Deuce Staley and Josh McCown as well. So they moved on from the majority of the offensive coaching staff. Like, they're just like, get him out of here. And one of our guys, Deuce Staley, he was a Lions coach. All right. He left the Lions to go be closer to his mother down in Carolina to rekindle his working relationship with Frank Reich. That's okay. Understand that. Scotty Montgomery's done a great job as the Lions running back coach in his stead. Deuce Staley is intense. Like, he is very intense. He's almost the exact opposite of Frank Reich when you look at how they conduct interviews, how they do things. Chris actually did a video on another channel, Sports Talk Detroit, where he actually asked the question, is Deuce Staley a great coach or just an annoying guy kind of deal? Like, because he was so intense. If you ever watched Hard Knocks, that's the coach you were getting. But the Panthers have moved on from all of them. All of them. McCown was in his first year as an assistant coach after a long playing career. You heard early in the season, Bryce Young just talk about how amazing it was to have him as a quarterbacks coach. Now we can ask him anything, and it's like another player on the field, but also a coach. Seemed like it was going well. But here's what we know. in the preseason, it was ugly. Like, it was ugly in the preseason. And I just think that it was one of those situations and became one of those things where you're like, all right, this is just what's going to be. It's going to be a vanilla offense in the preseason, and then it's going to get better. It's got to get better, right? Like, it's got to get better. And then it didn't. And now everybody is starting to wonder if it's Bryce Young. And I think that's why you got to let this staff go, because you need to change something right now, because you have a guy that you have invested a ton of capital in. And there are other rookie quarterbacks outperforming him, and you don't want him to lose it here. You don't want your prized possession, first overall draft pick, to start thinking, I'm not good enough to make it in this league. Because I'm telling you right now, Bryce Young is good enough to make it in this league. And when Tepper saw a young quarterback, the number 1 overall pick, not producing at a remarkable level, unfortunately, he said, this isn't good enough. This will not do. And that's why he moved on from the head coach. That's why he moved on from the majority of the coaching staff. Not only that, but the whole flippity floppity of, I'm the offensive coordinator. Okay, no, you can be the offensive coordinator. No, I'm the offensive coordinator again. Now the offensive coordinator gets to run the offense. Let's see what happens. All right, let's see what happens. And the new coach is going to be Chris Tabor, which is an interesting one. Like, it's interesting. He has been a special teams coordinator since 2011. He was a special teams coach all the way back to Utah State in 2005. The last time he coached another position was in 2007 when he was a running backs and special teams coach at Western Michigan. So, yeah, he's been in special teams exclusively since 2008. So now he's running the team, which actually makes sense to me. You let your offensive coordinator run the offense, you let your defensive coordinator run the defense, and the special teams coordinator has the time to run the team. So it makes sense. But I mean, also, it just kind of speaks to where the staff was at. There's not a lot there. So let's hope the Panthers can make the right decision here. Here's my biggest concern over the whole thing. Can you get a good head coach after you have consistently fired coaches midseason? It's scary. It's like a graveyard for head coaches. So here's your hope as a Panthers fan, that there's a coach out there that is a brilliant offensive mind that thinks that Bryce Young is the next great quarterback in this league, and he is a good up-and-coming coach, and he takes the job. Hey, I don't want to admit it, but maybe it's Ben Johnson. Maybe it's the guy that pulled his hat out of the ring when he was interviewing for your job. And if you don't know who Ben Johnson is, it's the offensive coordinator for the Lions. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.